My name is Ashley and I am the baker creator with Homemade by Ashley G. And I am coming live in the group just to chat about buttercream and cookies and how you can use it on cookies. I don't do any royal icing. I'm very intimidated by it actually, and I stick mainly with buttercream. So I'm going to chat with you a little bit about how I get smooth buttercream, buttercream consistencies, and just different ways that you can use it on your cookies. So if you have any specific questions, go ahead and ask them throughout this live and I will do my best to answer them if they pop up. How did everybody recover after Easter? How did your Easter sales go? We went pretty good over here, so I can't complain. I'm still a little mentally, but that's all right. That happens. When you jump on, say hi. If this ends up being the replay for you, just, hashtag replay is what they told me to say. But I'm just gonna jump right in and talk to you. When I do buttercream for my cookies, I use American buttercream. Okay, now there we go. Now I can see down there. I use American buttercream, just your standard American buttercream when I do simple buttercream cookies. So I'm gonna talk to you about that. I start with cool room temperature butter, and I think that's one of the most important things. You don't wanna set your butter out for hours beforehand. You still want it cold. So I pulled this one out probably about 30 minutes ago, and I'm gonna come close and kind of show you when I press it. See, there's a lot of give. There's some indents from me pressing it like that, but there's still a lot of give. This is still cool to the touch. So cool room temperature butter is what you want to start with when you're making some American buttercream for your cookies. So I just do 2 sticks, probably about 4 to 5 cups powdered sugar, some vanilla, a little bit of salt, and then the cream. But American buttercream is pretty forgiving. You can kind of adjust your consistency as you go with your cream or your powdered sugar. So if you use buttercream, let me know. I'm kind of gonna start just breaking it down Barney style, I guess. That way everybody can kind of understand it. If I ever am doing florals with buttercream, that's kind of my main go-to. Like if you've checked out my page at all, florals are my jam. That's kind of where I like to stay, but you can do a lot of things with buttercream on cookies. So when you're mixing it up, when I know I'm gonna do some florals, I keep it a little bit more stiff. So that just means I don't add as much of the heavy cream when I'm making my buttercream. So I keep it a little bit on the stiffer side, that way I can get the shape on the petals or whatever I'm piping that day. When you are making buttercream, when you cream the butter, you just put your 2 sticks in your mixer and let it go on high until it's pale and fluffy. That's what you want to start with before you add your powdered sugar and your vanilla and your salt. You want it nice and pale and nice and fluffy, and don't forget obviously to scrape down the sides. It's a lot different than royal icing. I think I've made royal icing maybe twice, so forgive me if I'm not understanding of how the process goes. But I didn't put a filter on this, so let's just deal with that. And I wanted you to really be able to see the consistency. So I made this buttercream a little bit ago, and I just put it in a bin with a lid airtight, otherwise it will start to get a crust. And then that's really annoying. It's hard to pipe with it. But I'm gonna show you. You can kind of see how, look at all those air bubbles. And that's usually the biggest issue with buttercream, is all of these air bubbles. And that's what we don't want. It's really aerated because we whipped this on high on our mixer probably for 4 to 5 minutes, and then I usually drop the mixer down to low and let some of the air bubbles work out, but you're never going to get them all out in the mixer. So once I make my batch of, let me lower this for you so you can see. Once I make my batch of buttercream, I usually put it in one of these containers, and it's just really got all those air bubbles in there, so we want to get those out. So what I do is I use smaller bowls. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna color your buttercream anyways, so you wanna transfer it to a smaller bowl that's easier to work with. So I'll just grab a little bit out here. I'm just gonna kind of show you what I do to help get some of these, hi there, to help get some of these air bubbles out. So I use a smaller spoon, I don't like one of the big ones, and I just kind of push. back and forth, and you're like pushing it against your bowl, and you can almost hear them pop. Probably hard to hear on there, but this is the key. You really can't, if you're looking for a good base, you really can't go straight from the mixer to your piping bag, or you're gonna have air bubbles everywhere. So I just push for a little bit until it's how I want it. If you can't see, let me know and I can try to always adjust, but we're pushing all those air bubbles out and making it smooth and pretty. So I'm gonna show you the difference from where we're at from the buttercream from the bowl and the buttercream that I've been working with. Do you see the difference? This is what you want. This is what we started with. And all you do is just keep pushing it out. So after you get it like that, you fill your bag. I use this cup. This is my favorite little cup to fill with. And from what I've seen with royal icing cookies, not many people use piping tips. So that might be new for you. So you can see on here, here's obviously your piping bag. Here's your, push it real good. Here's your coupler and here's your piping tip. And all these do is unscrew and you can switch out your piping tips. I like to use couplers because it lets me change my tip without having to dirty another bag, if that makes sense. So couplers to me are pretty important. I love them, but yeah, that's how you use them. You just kind of pop them in and then we're gonna fill our bag. So I use my little cup. It's not huge. I don't know how many ounces this is, maybe 8. It's not big, it's not a real tall drinking glass. So I just fold it over. And the reason it's not huge is because number one, you really don't want to overfill your bag, obviously. Number two, with buttercream, the heat from your hand plays a big role in, hi Carol, in how your buttercream is going to work for you. So if your hand gets nice and hot, you're going to want to take a lot of breaks. That's why the less you fill your bag, I know it's annoying to have to keep refilling. Trust me, I'm the queen of hating that. I always curse myself and refill my bag, but you don't, your butter is going to melt and your buttercream is going to become less stiff as you go. So you just kind of want to put in there what you use, especially if you're trying to do flowers. I'm probably going to keep referencing flowers because that's what I do a lot of, but I am going to show you how I pipe just some straight lines. God, I tried to have it so you can see it. When I'm piping lines, I don't use anything less than a number 3 tip. Even sometimes a number 3 is pushing it for me. You want like a number 3 or 4 are really good. That's what I like a Wilton tip. Pretty sure this is Wilton. Yeah, this is the Wilton number 3. Just a small round. And I'm gonna go ahead, I'm at an awkward angle, but I'm gonna try to pipe because I think one of the designs you see a lot are the back and forth lines on the buttercream cookies. So that's what we're gonna do. I always just kind of obviously twist your bag nice and tight and get it comfortable in your hand between your thumb and your forefinger. Like I said, I'm breaking this down Barney style. I'm not trying to insult anybody. I know y'all know how to do this kind of stuff, but buttercream is different than royal icing. So we have a small round number 3 and I just kind of outline my cookie the same way you would with royal icing. I'm at a really awkward angle, so forgive the sloppiness. So you outline your cookie, ignore that over there, and then you just kind of start and you go from side to side. The first cookie I do is usually a little rough, but just gentle pressure. And you just kind of side to side. And that's kind of how you fill it in. I'm not sure if you're able to see this. I don't, that is why, well, I'm glad you're here. So I'm hoping I'm not insulting anyone. I'm gonna try to stand and do that because this looks like I'm doing it blindfolded. But just nice and even pressure. And you just go side to side. And you kind of want to overlap your top line. That way you don't get those gaps. When I started doing buttercream cookies, I did this, this side-to-side line technique. I don't know what you want to call it, a lot. I think it's a little tedious, but it was the one I was most comfortable with until, do you find it takes longer to do buttercream than royal icing? So I know there's dry time with royal icing. I've iced royal cookies with royal icing once and they never dried, so you're like, that's a couple years now. So yeah, this is quicker. No. As far as doing the details, I guess I'm not a really good candidate to answer that because I'm not exactly sure how long it takes to do a royal icing cookie the right way. But this technique can be tedious and can be long. So when I'm doing pre-sales and stuff, I try to limit this technique in my designs because this does take a long time and it's tedious and you have to go back and forth and back and forth, and I personally hate doing it in white. I just feel like it never looks the greatest. Buttercream is so much more forgiving than royal icing as I like switching it up. Yes. Yes. I feel like it is because I know if you overmix royal icing or undermix, the outcome can be detrimental to your cookies. They don't dry. So I mean, the worst you can do is start with butter that's not cool room temp, so then it's kind of soft, but you can always pop it in the fridge and let it kind of firm up for you and just re-whip it. I can share a recipe after this. I can put a recipe in the comments, yes. And then so we're just gonna go back and forth a couple more times, but I always outline the cookie and just kind of, I know this is like scribble, but I'm nervous and we're at an awkward angle. But so just kind of lines, and you can see where I didn't fill it in. That's what I was talking about. You want to kind of come close to the line above it and kind of smush it on there. That way you don't have those gaps. You can kind of go back in and fill those gaps too. So I agree about the white not looking the greatest. I only decorate with butter. Well, hello, fellow. I have the hot hands issue. So in my freezer, I have a bag of vegetables that we don't eat. I'm pretty sure they're like mini chopped up sweet potatoes or peas and carrots. And that usually sits right next to me. And I set my bags on the frozen vegetables or my hand sometimes. Or I just have to set it down and put it away because, I mean, I can already feel my bag heating up right now. Yes, I'll share the recipe. Okay, so I'm going to switch this tip and do a round cookie. I do a lot of florals just because this line technique, like I said, can get redundant. It can get a little bit old. There's so much you can do with buttercream that doesn't involve just this line technique. So I'm going to pipe a round floral. I'm using the same color, but I'm using the 150 tip. I use the 104 a lot, but on a smaller cookie like this, the 150 is nice. So I'm gonna bring you down so you can kind of see. Sorry if you get motion sickness. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and just do a little flower. Just kind of ruffle it, bring it up and down. So up, down, up, down. Really, the way your petal turns out is all going to depend on your wrist and how you move your hand. If you've gone over to my page at all and saw some of the florals, when I do more of the realistic florals, I do use a different buttercream. I don't use American buttercream. Like if I'm piping on a flower nail, it's pretty unlikely I'm using American buttercream for that. I'm using more of a like a meringue buttercream mixed with American. I paid for the recipe. It's not mine to share. I would share it with the whole world, I promise. I took a class by Leslie Vigil. She's on Instagram, and hers was, is there a way to make it smooth with buttercream? No, so there is a way to make it smooth, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second. There's two ways that I like to use when I smooth buttercream. So for a round like this, I have a set coming up this weekend. It's a little cutie set. How are you storing and transporting these? Okay, I've done royal and glaze, and I find buttercream to be quicker and not as messy, although buttercream cookies don't stack. That's right, they don't stack. As far as a smooth top, so if you're doing a round cookie, like I said, I'm doing a little cutie set this week, so I have some rounds, and I'm gonna do like a light orange on them. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my round cookie, and I'm going to have a large round tip, probably like a size 12, and I'm gonna squeeze it in the center. And then you're gonna take your cookie and you're gonna turn it over on a piece of parchment paper. You're gonna push your cookie down until you see the buttercream reach the edge. Do that, you know, fill up a baking sheet with cookies like that, however many you need. Pop them in the freezer for 25 or 30 minutes. And when you pull it off, it's gonna be flat. And that's why it's important to have buttercream that doesn't have as many air bubbles in it, because when you do it with your buttercream that you've really mixed and pushed all the bubbles out of, you're gonna have a nice smooth surface. Also, something I like to do when I'm doing that technique, when I flip it over and I freeze it, is I like to crumple my parchment paper. So crumple it up really good, or kind of scarce, and lay it flat, and then smush your cookie over on it. Let that buttercream reach the edge, pop it in the freezer, and when you pull it off, you'll have that nice, pretty texture. You're welcome. Yeah, so if you've never done the upside down frozen method, that's a game changer. So for pre-sales and stuff like that, if I can incorporate something like that where I can knock out 12 cookies on a sheet really fast, hey, I'm in. Another way to smooth your buttercream is, and you can do this for really any shape of cookie, is take your offset spatula like you would ice a cake and get some hot water. So I have 3 that I work with, like 3 cups of hot water, so I can just kind of keep going. But get it nice and hot, microwave it for like a minute or so, and when you ice your cookie, you'll ice it on there, and then you're gonna take that hot spatula and just kind of go over it, and it's gonna smooth those lines. I should have set up for that today, but I do think there's somebody else that's gonna talk about smoothing if I read the lives correctly, so maybe she'll show that. But a hot icing spatula will smooth out all those lines and make it to where you have a blank canvas. When doing the upside down method, do you take the excess off before letting it set? So no, so when you do that upside down method, I would put like, you know, just a dollop in the center with a round tip, probably like a quarter or 2, and squish it just until it comes to the edge of your cookie. So there's no excess that you need to take off. Leave it on the parchment. So we're squished down, we're hanging out on the parchment, and we're going in the freezer for 30 minutes. After that 30 minutes, pull it out, gently peel it back off the parchment, and you'll have a smooth surface. So I have one in, yeah, that's like the number one question is how to package it. So I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna go run to my fridge real quick because I have one chilling, and I brought a bag over. So I just brought this little cellophane bag and a tie. I don't heat seal every cookie. Sometimes my customers request that they not be sealed. They just don't want to pay the extra, and that's fine. But I do heat seal them a lot, and they're fine. You have to be careful, and we can't stack them on top of each other. But I find that once I decorate my cookie, I will put, I dry my buttercream under a fan for about 10 hours, and they don't smudge, they don't stack. Oh, that's a good idea. I've never dried them under a fan, but I will ice all my cookies and pop them on a cookie sheet, and we'll put them in the fridge for another 25-30 minutes. Just let everything set nicely, and then I can handle them without being so nervous. Petals and stuff and leaves and stuff are still pretty delicate. You just have to be careful, and they do really well. All right, let me go grab my cold cookie. It's right over here, and it's a flower. So I just got this out of the fridge. So you can see these right here. So I'm gonna kind of gently touch. See, we're okay. Nothing's happening. They're okay. And I just take my bag. This is kind of a big bag, but it's what we got right now. And I can even put my thumb on top of it. I don't want to do that for long. The heat from your hand is gonna warm your butter, but I can handle it without it. And it's packaged in there. and it's not really smudging, and he's doing okay. And you can even, you want to put a cute little bow. I have a little twist tie. It's doing all right. You just have to be careful. I don't know how quickly you can package royal icing cookies. It takes me a little while to package buttercream cookies because you have to be pretty careful. And then a lot of times if I have them heat sealed or like this, I'll use just one of my boxes and I kind of line them up like this, one in front of the other, and then I can transport them a little bit better. So yeah, they do package. You just can't stack them right on top of each other. When I do custom orders, obviously we talk about packaging and everything when we're going through it all, and a lot of them I just lay flat. Like I don't want to risk smudging a custom order. When I do my pre-sales, I always offer a 1 dozen option that I pick the designs of, and they're usually pretty simple designs, pretty easy, and I overlap those in a box. I love the way cookies look overlapped. I think it's pretty. I like the way they look on a cake stand overlapped, and that's a non-issue. I've never had anybody say, the corner of this bunny's ear was smushed. So I do that when I do pre-sales. What about the condensation in the bag? So when I'll freeze, I do freeze butter. Yep, stand them up like soldiers, somebody said. That's exactly right. You just kind of, and they do well like that. And I think the bag provides a little bit of cushion and almost structure. Can you freeze the packaged finished cookies? Yes, you can. So I would heat seal and package them, and then I would freeze them in an airtight container, and then I just pull them out. I pop them in the fridge for a couple hours just so that there isn't a huge temperature change, and then I put them on the counter and they're okay. I've never had any issues with bleeding or anything like that. They do pretty well. I know from just what I've read in groups and stuff, royal icing can be a little temperamental when you go to unfreeze. I've never had any issues with buttercream. So what does heat sealing do that is different than the resealable bags? When you heat seal it, it's an airtight seal. I'm not sure, are you talking resealable bags like a Ziploc bag? I'm not sure. This is not heat sealed, so air can get in this and it would probably go bad faster, but sugar cookies stay heat sealed for a couple weeks, honestly. I'm sorry. What else do I have? Chilling, bagging for sale. So those are some of my, is my buttercream a crusting recipe? So mine is all butter. I know that you can add like shortening and stuff to it to make it a more of a crusting recipe. Mine is not a true crusting recipe. It will get that slight crust. Like if I were to let these cookies I have right here sit out for an hour or two, just a little bit, it'll get a slight crust to it, but it's not a true crusting recipe. I'm sorry, I might have to grab water here in a second. The flour cookie was a 150. I'm gonna grab a sip of water, I'm sorry. Okay, now that I can breathe. Another thing, like if you're into florals, if you like doing florals, I use the tip 104 a lot. That's a good petal tip. It's more of a teardrop shape. This 150 is pretty consistent in size from top to bottom, and the 104 is more of a teardrop shape. And I find that teardrop is just too thick. So when you have florals, you kind of want a delicate petal. So if you modify it, and you modify it by taking a pair of pliers and kind of squeezing the thick end of your 104 to create a nice thin tip, if that makes sense. The Wilton tips are just a little bit thick and they create a lot of buttercream and really thick leaves, and if you want more of a delicate rose or a delicate petal, modifying that tip a little bit is key. I have so many 104s and they're almost all modified. Okay, what tip was it again? This one for the flour was a 150. This is from Hobby Lobby, Sunny Side Up. It's a 150. And I just, when I pipe those petals, you just kind of go up. Oh, you can't even see me. Here we go. We go up and you just kind of give it a ruffle and bring it down. And it creates these really pretty petals. I did a lot of these for Easter, and these go pretty fast once you get the hang of it. So I'd say the biggest thing is your buttercream smoothing it. So I work out of, I was showing everybody, I work out of a big container. So I'll make like a big batch or two of buttercream, put it in this big container, super aerated. We got all these air bubbles in here and we don't want that. So we'll just take it in smaller increments, put a little bit in there. And then I'm gonna actually dye this yellow because I need some yellow. And I'll show you how I push the air bubbles out. So you kind of have it in your bowl and you just really just kind of, I go back and forth pushing it on the edges of the bowl. Just give it a stir. And you will see that those air bubbles work themselves out. Got this color. This is Lemonade from Americolor, and this bottle looks like it's gonna be this great yellow, but golly, it takes a lot to get a good yellow. Anyways, so I've kind of worked all those air bubbles out. I'm gonna show you what it looks like. So I'm gonna take some from my bowl. Look at how, I don't know, like it looks like mashed potatoes almost. And then we have this after you work it in your bowl. So you go from this to this, and this is what you want. You're welcome. To use when you start. See, it doesn't even look yellow, does it? But this is what you want. The buttercream recipe that I purchased to pipe more realistic florals like that have structure and everything, I purchased from Leslie Vigil. She's on Instagram. I don't know if she's on Facebook, but she has a ton of online classes and they're super informative. How do you get your colors bright? I had a batch that seemed to have a white streak in it. So much for you're welcome. So I use a lot of Americolor and then Sunny Side Up colors. The streaks, if they're white streaks, it might just be coming from not fully mixing. Sometimes it takes a while and really scraping the bottom to get everything up, but sometimes it does take a while to really get it all fully incorporated. I would say the white streaks might just be because it's not fully mixed. I think I've answered all the questions. Do you have any other questions? I want to make sure that you learned something. I hope you did at least. I knew that I wanted to do cookies, but I was very scared of royal icing. I still am. I might take a class, actually. We have a local baker who's gonna do a cookie class, so I might take it and just see what happens. But I think buttercream is fun. I think I am team texture all the way. I'm not somebody who spends hours trying to get the smoothest side on a cake, and I don't do that for my cookies either. I just like the way it looks, a little bit more natural. Make red or black. So with black, when I'm making black, obviously you don't want to use the entire thing of black food coloring. I do like the black from Sunny Side Up Bakery and Americolor, but I always tell my customer that I'm going to use black cocoa. I think that's the key. If you really want that deep, true black, black cocoa is the key. I don't know if you've ever used it. You can get it on Amazon and you add it to your buttercream and you mix it in there, and I mean, it's black. Can you freeze buttercream to use later? How do you store and what do you do after thawing? Yes, you can freeze the buttercream to use later. I actually usually make it by the bowl full like this. 1 or 2 bowls. Okay, Can you show us how you make a rose on the round cookie? Yeah, I'll grab another cookie really quick and try to do a rose. So you can freeze it or you can refrigerate it. I don't keep much of it in the freezer just because I use it so quick, but all you would do is just kind of pull it out. So if you wanted to decorate, you know, I would set it out the night before, that way it's ready for you in the morning, and then I would re-whip it. Stick it back in your mixer with the paddle attachment and re-whip it, get some life back into it, some air, and then you're gonna go ahead and distribute it into your smaller bowls that are a little bit more manageable and work those air bubbles out. Can you list all of these in a post? Instagram page. Yes, my Instagram is homemade by Ashley G. Can I list all of these in a post, like the piping tips or the tips in general? Not sure if you asked how long will buttercream last in the freezer and refrigerator. So in the freezer, I'd say you'd get 6 to 8 weeks out of it easily. In the fridge, I've never left it in there past a week just because I use it so quickly, but it would last a couple weeks in the fridge. I love this. I'm definitely more comfortable with buttercream. Yes. Let me grab, don't be scared of royal icing. Let me go grab another cookie and I'll tip 104 and I'll show you how we I actually have a 104 in this bag. I don't have a coupler in it right now, but I've done cakes for 8 years. Flowers on cookies can be difficult. Let me pull this over and try to pipe. Yes, for a rose on a cookie, so ooh, I'm gonna show you another thing. Sometimes when you want to add flowers to your cakes or your cookies, I'll pipe them on a flower nail. So I'm gonna show you some I did earlier today. I have a cake coming. These I just pulled out of the freezer, so now I can handle them more comfortably. So we've just got a little rose and just some little blooms. Some other roses here. Thank you for sharing. I've been scared. Don't be scared of buttercream. Oops, gosh, look, he flipped over, but he's frozen so I can handle him. I don't want to handle him for a while because the heat in my hands is going to melt him, but we've got some roses. So if I want like a true rose that looks like that, I probably won't pipe directly on the cookie. This would be something that I would probably do 3 blooms on the cookie and then fill in with some leaves, if that makes sense. But we can do, like if I had yellow in here, I like the 104 to do a sunflower too. So if you just put that in the center, I'm gonna try. Can you see? Yes, I'm gonna post the buttercream recipe in the comments when I am done. So when I pipe with the 104, I want to show you, if you just joined, I talked about modifying your tips. So here is a perfect example. You can kind of see where I bent it just a little bit to make it thinner. I do use other flavors of buttercream. It's really easy to flavor American buttercream. Lemon, I prefer lemon zest, strawberry. You can use freeze-dried strawberries. That creates a really pretty like pink color as well. I do use fresh strawberries, and when I use fresh strawberries, I puree them in my food processor first, and then I'll add them to my buttercream, and I won't add the cream. I'll add the strawberries first, the strawberry puree first, and see what kind of like consistency I have going before I add anything else, because the more liquid you add, the looser your buttercream is going to be. Can you pipe roses with strawberry buttercream? Probably not, no, because you need structure for the petals, but it's going to taste really good. So a lot of times I'll fill with strawberry buttercream or wrap the cake in it and then add roses, if that makes sense. chocolate too. So when I just take it up, I'm gonna try to lift it so I can bring it closer. I take it up and then kind of just do this little, like, I don't know what to call it, where you kind of fold the petal over and pull it back into the center, and that will creates that wave in the petal. And then I love just adding another layer, so you can kind of see where you pull it up and then you fold it over to create that wave in your petal, create a little movement. And I just really, I don't know, I could pipe buttercream flowers all day. I ever use other flavors? Got that question, so. So here we go. He's kind of wonky, but you kind of see what I mean? So this is with the 104. And then this one was smaller, and it creates just more of a wave. I'm gonna show you side by side. My go-to is the 104. And I would fill that center, you know, with yellow or whatever you want to fill your center with. So a modified 104 is key to create a more delicate leaf, and then your 150 is, he's already thin, but he's not really teardrop-like, if that makes sense. You can kind of see the difference. It's a little bit bigger too, like that 104 is a little bit longer. Any other questions? Sorry, my throat, but does anybody do buttercream cookies? Is that your jam? I love them. I think they taste good. I'd say my key tip is to start with cool room. Oh, let me go grab my flour now. 1 second. I'm gonna pipe the rose with the 150, and because I've been holding this, it's a little bit soft. So I am gonna go ahead and set this on this cold cookie sheet while I go get my flour now, so that it can kind of cool up and I can have a little bit of structure to the rose. 1 second. I've been piping flowers all afternoon because I have a lot of them. Can you use extracts or oils? You can use extracts. Oh, on the cookie. You asked for it on the cookie. You're right. Let me do that. Zachary, will you grab me a round cookie? That's my son. Yes, please. Just a circle. All right. Let me move these out of the way. Okay, can you show the difference between the 105? So we've been using the 150 and the 104. Let me pipe this rose on this cookie real quick. Well, I'll try. It's gonna be flat, so when you pipe a rose on a cookie, it's just kind of flat. It's not always my favorite design. So what you wanna do is start with something in the center, just like that. Do you add white coloring to your white cookies? Sometimes I add white. I don't always add white, but sometimes I do. If you beat your butter in the beginning, the first step, when you add 2 sticks of butter to your mixer with your paddle attachment, cool room temperature butter to your mixer with your paddle attachment, and you start beating it, beat it for 4 to 5 minutes. It's gonna be pale and it's gonna be fluffy, and that's what you wanna start with. Okay, so let's start. So this is the 104, the Wilton 104, a modified 104, meaning I've pinched it with pliers to make it thinner because the Wilton tips are pretty thick. So I've got a blob in the center of my cookie, and we're just gonna see if I can do this like this. And we're just gonna go over. You just wanna kind of create your center first. Once you get your center created, the cookie kind of comes together. So always keep a paper towel near you because you wanna work with a clean tip. And you kind of start with a tight center, and then as you work your way out, you can start to open your flower. I'm gonna pick it up now. I'm sorry, I told you I was using the 104. I'm using the 150 right now. I apologize. So now I'm gonna pick it up so that I can kind of open my petals. You just overlap just a little bit. I like a little wave to my petal. If you look at any of my work, you can kind of see that. And that just comes from moving your hand just slightly, up and down just a little bit. This is not a design I do all that often just because it is super, it's a lot of buttercream. Every once in a while in a floral set, I'll put a big rose cookie on there. I'm gonna stand now because it's getting a little awkward. So then we're gonna come out even more. Just keep going. And just fan it out. And you can always stop at this point. You don't have to go all the way to the edge. Yes, roses on a nail are a lot easier for me too. Because see, now my petal is kind of falling, but you get the picture. So we kind of have that, but roses on a nail are a lot easier. And when I end my rose, that's where I put my leaf. Because leaves cover everything and they make everything better. And if you have an imperfection, just add a leaf. Nobody will know. That's my motto. So I would probably add a leaf in over here a little bit just to kind of cover up the raw edge. But there's a rose on a cookie. It is pretty. It is super pretty. And then a rose on a piping nail is just a little bit, oh God, he fell over. Let me grab him. Just a little bit easier. And it just looks a little bit more realistic. More of my work. I'm on Instagram. I thought I tagged my page in the introduction of this, Homemade by Ashley G. And you can kind of see what I do. I'm gonna try a rose. My buttercream's getting a little warm on a piping nail. So you just have your parchment square, your piping nail, a little buttercream right there to stick your parchment. And let's see, how do you package buttercream on the cookie? So a lot of times I lay it flat if my customer does not want, let me get this cold for a minute. If my customer does not want the cookies bagged, some of them don't, they just don't want to pay the extra cost, I will lay them flat in a box on parchment. But a lot of times, I have one here I bagged earlier. If you pop them in the fridge for about 30 or so minutes, this will set enough for you to handle it, to bag it. Now you're not going to want to stack like this and just keep going up. We don't want to do that. Buttercream is delicate, but if you get a box and you line them up like this, somebody said like soldiers, which is right. Just line them right in front of each other. The bag kind of provides a little bit of structure for you to lean against, and they stand upright and they do pretty well. This one isn't damaged. He's done pretty well in there. That's probably the #1 question I think with buttercream cookies is how to package them, because man, I see the royal icing cookies in boxes just lined up and stacked. I'm like, gosh, I just wish. I wish. Okay, I'm gonna try to pipe a rose. This buttercream's getting a little soft, but to pipe a rose on a nail, you're just gonna start with your center. You're welcome. And we're just gonna go around to create your center. Kind of like that. And then I pipe away from me some arcs. 3 arcs is what I start with. And then we're gonna, this is where having a separate recipe that's like a hybrid, it's that hybrid recipe I was talking about that I purchased from Leslie Vigil. This is where that comes in handy because it doesn't sag. It really just has so much structure. He's a little limp because we're a little warm, but I don't stack my royal icing either. I line them up. There you go. How do you tell the customer to unbag so they don't ruin it getting out? Okay, so when I heat seal them, I just tell them to pop them in the fridge. So like, especially during the summer when we're transporting cookies and all that stuff, I will just tell the customer, if you pop these in the fridge for about 25 to 30 minutes, they'll be a lot easier for you to handle. And we've never had an issue. For taking to a pop-up, somebody asked, how do you recommend taking a ton to sale? The soldier thing, I would show you up here. So up above on that shelf, I have this brown basket. It's pretty big, and that's what I take to pop-ups with me, and I just line the cookies up like this, just like one after another, heat sealed, obviously in a bag with a little bow or whatever you're gonna do, and that's how I transport them to a pop-up. Don't stack my royal icing. Okay, thank you. Yep, so I think the biggest, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think when you're working with royal icing that the heat from your hand affects the consistency. I want to say it doesn't. You can tell me I'm wrong. I might be wrong, but that's kind of the biggest hurdle with American buttercream. If I have a bunch of roses to do, like I was saying earlier, I use a bag of frozen vegetables to set my hand on, or to set my bags on, or an ice cold baking sheet, something to help keep my buttercream cool. Same with bagging it. I have this small cup. I don't put a lot in the bag at once because all you're doing is melting it all. So just kind of work with enough to get you through a couple flowers and keep going. What boxes do I use? I have the ones from BRP. I think they're like a 10 by 10 square, and then I have, gosh, they're an oblong one. All those details, I'll go back in and read, and I'll put those in the comments. Yes, it does. Thick with florals. The heat will separate it some. Yes, agreed. So, yep, those are my tips. Any more questions before I leave you on this wonderful Thursday? I was going to say Wednesday. That just shows you where my brain is at. But I think they're pretty. When I do a floral set, a lot of times I'll include on royal. Oh, okay, now I understand. The heat will affect the royal icing a little bit. What is a good first step for selling? Going from hobby to side hustle. A good first step for selling. So I've been doing this, I think 2015 was when I started posting stuff on Facebook, and I posted with the intent to just take fun food pictures, and they were actually really, really bad back then, but I thought I was great, and that's all I wanted to do. And then I baked a pecan pie, and that was kind of how it happened for me. And I think we're in a time where so many people want to support small business and support young entrepreneurs and people who are doing their own thing. I would reach out to boutiques. I see a lot of people doing pop-ups at boutiques. For the day before Mother's Day, the 7th, I'm doing one at a home decor store. And I know that seems kind of like, why would you do that? But you get all these women and their daughters and everybody coming in, and we always do well there. We always sell out. Thank you for your time and sharing. You're welcome. Can you flatten the lined buttercream without using the hot spreader? So if you want to flatten it on a certain shape without a hot spreader, I've not had success with that. But if you want to flatten buttercream on a circle cookie, I'm going to turn my light on. I feel like it's getting a little dark. Hello. If you want to flatten it on a circle cookie, what you can do, and we talked about this earlier, is you can add like a tablespoon of buttercream to the center of your circle, take that cookie and flip it over on parchment paper and squish it down until your buttercream reaches the edge of that cookie, and freeze it for about 25 minutes. You can do however many fit on a baking sheet. And then pop them in the freezer for 25 to 30 minutes and then gently peel them off. And they'll be a nice flat surface for you. That's a good one at Christmas time for ornaments. I actually had somebody do a Christmas themed baby shower not too long ago, and she wanted 3 dozen ornaments in the middle of a busy week. But I did that method, and it helps it go a lot quicker, because that line method, that back and forth, can be so redundant and you will get a hand cramp, and sometimes it's just not fun. Thank you, you're welcome. Let's see. Thank you for your time. Yes, you'll be able to watch the replay. I don't have everything in front of me to be able to do the flip and freeze method right now, but you know, maybe we can do that in the future. I'd love to come back on and pipe some more flowers with you guys and show you how I do that in the future. If you go to my Facebook page, I did show that. I did a live on my Facebook page as a tip or trick for my followers, and I did show them how to do the parchment method. So if you head to my Facebook, you can do that. Yes, I'm going to post the recipe in the comments here once we're done for my buttercream that I use. It's just your standard American buttercream. If you weren't on here earlier when I was talking about the buttercream I use for more detailed florals, that is the recipe I purchased from Leslie Vigil. You can find her on Instagram. So I can't really, it's not my recipe to share, so I can't share that one, but it's like a meringue American buttercream hybrid, and it's great for getting that structure with your florals. Any other questions before I leave? Feels like it's going to fall off on the pre-sales. Yes, my hand does too. That's why I really look for designs that are streamlined and easy and that I can do quick. I priced my 1 dozen cookies and my pre-sales less than obviously a custom set, because I'm picking the colors, and we're going to work with colors that I'm already working with that week, and we're going to do designs that are whimsical and easy. My Facebook is Homemade by Ashley G. I think I tagged it in the introduction up here, but I can tag it in the comments here when I'm done. I thought I tagged it up there, but I can comment here once I'm done with my Facebook page. But there's a lot of flowers on there, a lot of those detailed flowers I do with that different buttercream, and then a lot of the florals on my cookies is mainly American buttercream, and just leaving it a little bit thicker when you're making it can help you too, which means just don't add as much cream. Always just start out with less. You can always add more cream, so just start out with a little bit less. Yes, I'll post her name as well, Leslie Vigil. That's where I got the other buttercream recipe that's really good for florals. You're welcome. You're welcome, Carol. She comes to my classes. Thanks for always coming to my classes. I appreciate you and seeing you. But I had fun. My heart isn't beating as fast as it was when we started this, so that's good. I've got a nice mess here of buttercream, and that means it was a good Thursday night. But I appreciate everybody hopping on and saying hi, and I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments, and I will do my best to get into the comments and get everything answered the best I can. Or if you follow me on social media, I will, reach out. I love sharing knowledge. I think it's great. We can all learn something from everybody, so I don't mind sharing. So I'm gonna let y'all go. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in the group. Bye.